for me working with teenagers is that I give them the information on a real level of hormones, and like the circle that Laura showed earlier on the slide is actually giving that understanding. And as soon as they can start to apply that logical sense of education, and then combine that with kind of what their bodies are telling them as well, we can start to see some kind of identification, which is where we can build the progress of change and addressing the underlying kind of issues, if you like, with food or other problems in life. Connecting with a coach and mentor is great for everybody. I think for the whole family, teenagers appreciate that space that they have that isn't with parents, it is outside of that family unit, outside of school.
I think it can help if the teenager often chooses their coach or mentor, so they've got more control over the process. Absolutely. Who they feel that they've got a connection with, rather than someone that the parent has chosen.
Absolutely, or at least giving them a choice with that. It's kind of like meet this person and see. And we know me and Laura both work with the same person, and Laura worked with the whole family. And actually, when she's come over to me, she said, actually, I like the fact that it's separate. I'm having a choice, and I'm able to kind of not be with have the same coach as my mum, who that second guessing of what that therapist knows about them and what other people have said. A massive one is identifying those emotions. It's really hard. Emotions are tough, and generally they are, yeah, I'm okay, no, I'm not. So utilizing the emotions wheel and feelings wheel, and really identifying with that individual team, what does an emotion mean to them? What is it? Because what is happy to me is not likely to be happy to them. And whether that needs to be words, pictures, be creative, I think would be my go-to is what's their interest? How can we make this educational and exciting whilst changing? For parents, again, educating themselves, educate yourself. Get yourself a coach for your responses to the situation as well. Having the opportunity to express where you're at and how you're emotionally coping with seeing your child go through the kind of upheaval of an eating disorder is really, really important. And it gives you opportunity as a parent to look at your own food relationships and food habits. And this is not about putting any blame on, because I think parents often blame themselves, like it must be me, or completely wash their hands of it and say it's not, but actually bringing that into the forefront of what's the reality in the home and in our own lives as parents. Avoiding shame, being patient, it is a long process, and ultimately just being there and having that open relationship, open dialogue with your child, and appreciating that you may be in a position that you will never win. I think that was the biggest one I discovered as going through it for my partners, for my parents, and then as a parent, is often the person who's going through that disordered eating and process and all the emotions that go that. They don't really know what they want, and they may at one point want you to have all the questions and ask them, but actually when you ask the questions, the resistance and the defense mechanisms kick in because there's so much shame around that. Or they might want you to ignore it, but then if you do ignore it, feel that actually, well, no one cares anyway. So there is that element of not knowing what the right thing to do is, which is where the coaching and seeking your own support comes in, so that you can then be there for your child and potentially doing the stuff together at the same time. I do like to have parents and child together. If I'm doing specific work with a teenager or young person, actually I'm asking quite a lot of them to kind of voice and to name and to take that into their home life. If mum and dad are not in that same space, actually that can become that teenager's just being leery, aggressive, rude, dismissive, fighting back. Whereas actually to give mum and dad the education as well of this is the skills that we're going through, this is how it's going to look in your house, of I noticed mum and dad that this is happening to me and this is how I feel. Actually that prepares them and gives them opportunity not only to reflect that skill back, but to be embracing and maybe not quite so dismissive of it and think that they're just being rude and leery and teenage in their nature.